This is Valley News Live at 5.
The Fargo Police Department is asking you to keep an eye out for this car. A suspect in a recent shooting at the Arbors apartment complex may be traveling in it. It's described as a white 2009 Hyundai Sonata with North Dakota license plate 091DHL. 21-year-old Oliver Ty has been charged with attempted murder along with other crimes in connection with the January 24th shooting. Police are still looking for him. If you see him or the car, call police. If you have any information on Oliver Ty's whereabouts, again, the vehicle, call immediately. He is considered armed and dangerous, so officers are urging you not to approach him. New for you at 5, a Cass County judge has refused to reduce the prison sentence of a West Fargo man who pleaded guilty in a drunk driving crash that killed a friend. Officials say Daniel Del Pazzo wrote a request stating that a reduced sentence was in the interest of justice and for the well-being of his family. Del Pazzo is sentenced to 12 years in prison for the death of Johnny Gray in June of 2019. Gray was a well-known hairstylist in Fargo. Authorities are investigating after someone apparently shot a horse in Otter Tail County. A horse owner in rural Earhart, Minnesota, called the sheriff's office saying one of his horses had been shot. Otter Tail County deputies found the animal in a pasture with what appeared to be a single gunshot wound. Anyone with information is urged to contact the sheriff's office at this phone number, 218-998-8555. Area roads could pose a challenge this evening. There's a wintry mix moving in, and that's expected to make things slippery. Let's get more from Hutch in First Weather. Hey, Hutch.
Yeah, soupy look there from the Dakota Magic Casino. And as we take a look at your road conditions, thanks to our friends at the North Dakota Department of Transportation, we see some areas of blue in the Devil's Lake Basin, some areas of yellows and purples and across the area. So from Devil's Lake all the way to the southeast corner of North Dakota, we do have some areas where there's some slippery roads. Use caution. We also have issued a winter weather advisory for the Highway 200 corridor and points south as we go through the overnight hours and into tomorrow. Freezing drizzle is going to be likely in those areas. Radar, not impressive. We do have some light flurries and whatnot, but I can tell you from personal experience, the roads, even in the FM area, in places are extremely icy. Put my foot on the brake and didn't stop. It's scary. So use caution, give yourself extra time and space. 24 degrees all night long with clouds continuing and freezing drizzle in the forecast for Fargo. Some light flurries of snow up north. I will have details on what looks to be a white weekend for some. And remember, we're going to have this icy mixture with covering of snow on top of it by Saturday. All the hour-by-hour details in a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Hutch. One man is now facing charges after a wild crash in South Fargo. Witnesses told police that 18-year-old Noah Jamison was speeding down 13th Avenue South last night when he crossed into the westbound lanes to pass other vehicles. His car hit a snowbank and went airborne. It came to rest on its roof after hitting a tree. Jamison had to be extracted from the car by firefighters. He was taken to the hospital with minor injuries, and police say he was not intoxicated. He reportedly admitted to speeding and distracted driving. Jamison could be facing charges for reckless endangerment and distracted driving. No one was injured after a fire at a South Fargo apartment building overnight. People reported flames coming from a deck in the 4700 block of Timber Parkway just before midnight. Fire crews put it out quickly and say the damage appears to be contained to one unit. A trial for one of the former officers charged in the death of George Floyd could possibly be delayed. Right now, jury selection for the trial of Derek Chauvin is set to begin March 8th, but late yesterday, prosecutors filed an appeal to the Minnesota Court of Appeals asking for the Shavan trial to be delayed because of the COVID pandemic. The prosecutor is also asking the appeals court to overturn the decision to try Chauvin and 3 other officers separately. Chauvin is the officer seen on camera with his knee to George Floyd's neck. Prosecutors continued the COVID argument they made earlier this month in an affidavit from U of M infectious disease expert Michael Osterholm. In that affidavit, Osterholm says holding a trial in March 2021 will be especially dangerous because of the new, more contagious variant of the coronavirus and how it will likely be present at that time. Joe Tamburino is a criminal defense attorney not affiliated with this case, but skeptical about whether this appeal could succeed.
By arguing COVID The state is also basically saying that the court has to take consideration of factors outside of the courtroom that have nothing to do with the trial. Again, that's highly unusual. You never see that kind of an argument when the state is trying to appeal a pretrial order.
Shavan's attorney has argued for delays in the trial, citing issues with the prosecution's handling of exhibits. The judge had denied those motions. We may know as soon as next week whether the Minnesota Court of Appeals will accept the appeal. Shoplifters are at it again at a downtown Fargo business, this time stealing at least $50 worth of goods from local makers. Ashley with Unglued says two people walked in yesterday and bought some items, but surveillance video, when looked at that, found a woman stuffing her jacket. She says it had to be someone that was familiar with the shop because they knew to ask what prints they had.
When it's a small business and they directly took from 5 local makers, like directly from Fargo at least. And so it's just really frustrating, and you want to find a way to prevent it from happening ever again and to at least get the things back.
They reported it to police and noted that in 2020 they had the most shoplifting ever. There's a growing rift in the Republican Party in the wake of the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Some GOP members are openly feuding with each other, and Democrats are calling one freshman Republican Congresswoman dangerous. CBS's Nicole Killian reports from the Capitol, where there are also calls for increased security.
As infighting grows inside the GOP, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy went to former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, hoping to win his support for Republicans looking to take the House in 2022. The meeting comes as Democratic lawmakers call to push out one newly elected Republican.
Now they're trying to expel me from Congress.
At a town hall in Dallas, Georgia, a defiant Marjorie Taylor Greene.
You know, it's a witch hunt.
The Georgia Congresswoman received a standing ovation as she rejected calls for expulsion after endorsing violence against Democratic leaders on social media.
Why are you supporting red flag gun laws that attack our Second Amendment rights?
And video also surfaced from 2019 of Greene confronting a survivor of the Parkland school shooting.
And you have nothing to say.
Congresswoman Johanna Haynes represents Newtown, Connecticut, the site of the 2012 Sandy Hook shooting. In a letter, she urged GOP leaders to remove Greene from the House Committee on Education and Labor, proclaiming that mass shooting was staged.
The idea that we have a sitting member of Congress trafficking in conspiracy theories, calling mass school shootings false flags, re-traumatizing families, harassing victims of school-based shootings. It's dangerous.
With tensions and safety concerns running high, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says more funding may be needed for congressional member security.
The enemy is within the House of Representatives.
Security could get tighter here. The acting chief of Capitol Police wants permanent fencing around the complex. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Capitol Police are also increasing security at Washington area transportation hubs on busy travel days. President Joe Biden is encouraged by new data on a potential COVID vaccine. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the Johnson & Johnson vaccine still needs to go through the regulatory package to help Americans who are struggling and to get children back in schools safely.
Our view is that this bill should be bipartisan. 74% of the public support it, and we want Republicans to work with Republicans on fighting COVID and putting the American people back to work.
Officials say the president is also focused on reopening all schools safely with the guidance of his health and medical experts. A milestone for the latest COVID-19 vaccine, but there's also concerns about Johnson & Johnson's version being 10% less effective than the vaccines already being given to those in the metro. Valley News Team's Kelly Hubbard tells when the new vaccine will arrive here and whether you can choose a more effective option.
Sanford says the earliest the new Johnson & Johnson vaccine will arrive in the Valley is March.
Still, it has the capacity to reduce the COVID-19 infection to just a common cold. So the vaccine is serving its purpose.
Questions are being raised about the new vaccine's 85% effectiveness in comparison to Pfizer's 95% and Moderna's 94% efficacy.
Pfizer or Moderna, either way, doesn't make a lot of difference to me. A little bit hesitant about the Johnson & Johnson one.
Some even wondering if you can choose which vaccine you get.
As of now, we are not in a position to choose. We are using up our vaccines as they come. We are not saving anything. And for me, it really doesn't matter which vaccine you choose as long as it is safe and effective.
Dr. Avish Nagpal with Sanford saying that efficacy numbers are nice to know, but as long as the vaccine is safe and effective, it's doing the job by bringing the COVID-19 infection to a common cold.
I would choose the Moderna one because the results have been a lot firmer and better. But I also, at the end of the day, if I didn't have a choice, I'm just going to take whichever one I can get.
Nagpal also adding you should get whatever vaccine is available to you as soon as you can. In Fargo, Callie Hubbard, Valley News Live.
Sanford also told us the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has the possibility of becoming a 2-dose vaccine, meaning the efficacy rate could go up. And if you're looking to stay on top of the latest vaccine information, check out our new VNL vaccine tracker. Just open your phone's camera and point it at the QR code on your screen. Then tap the link that pops up. We'll keep that tracker up in the bottom corner of your screen for the next few minutes. More spectators will be allowed at school events in Fargo and West Fargo. Fargo Public Schools is bringing back the tradition of buying tickets at the door. The main gyms at the high schools will have a capacity between 900 and 1,050 people. The Shields Arena will hold just over 3,700. West Fargo Public Schools is also doing away with its voucher system. The capacity for events in West Fargo high school gyms will be raised to 1,000. The Holbert Aquatic Center and West Fargo sports arenas are also upping their capacities. Masks will still be required for all spectators in both Fargo and West Fargo. Another airline is admitting last year was a challenging one. What American Airlines lost during the pandemic is still to come.
Wild weekend weather to talk about. Slippery roads developing with temperatures below freezing and some freezing drizzle. I'll have the slippery details in your forecast and we'll update you on First Alert Weather Days midweek coming up next.